Welcome back everyone to another video. Today, as the thumbnail says, I will be showcasing all of my builds in this Roblox game called Plane Crazy. A lot of my aircraft are made for PvP, which is why most of them have guns and missiles and things like that. Without further ado, let's get started. The first aircraft on our list is the Avenger early version. This isn't my first build, but this is my first jet. The reason I'm not showing you my first build is because it's been deleted, but it's just a regular Plane Crazy plane with guns. Back to the Avenger, however, you may notice something peculiar. Why in the world are the wings just blocks? Well, you see, this is before I figured out 45-degree delta wing panels, so I just thought this was the only way to get that look. It was originally supposed to look a little bit like a Saab Gripen, but I extended the front wings because I was wondering why it didn't lift. As you may have noticed, its top speed is not very fast. It only goes about 160 miles per hour maximum. It is also very wobbly, and if you even try to pull up, it just flat spins into another direction. It's not even really a turn. It also has 3 guns and 2 missiles, which was decent for its time, but I really wouldn't use it to dogfight anything else right now. The next aircraft on our list is essentially the same thing I just showed you, just a later version of it. Its changes include 2 more super rocket engines for more speed and 2 more missiles. In terms of performance, the 2 super rocket engines did in fact boost its speed, but it didn't make it any more maneuverable. As you can see, it's still very wobbly and it doesn't turn very good. Because this aircraft has more speed, I decided to add a parachute to help better slow it down on landings. This next aircraft is the reason the Avenger went out of business. This is the Twin Boom 2, called that because of its twin boom style fuselage. The reason I didn't show the first twin boom version is because it's deleted. It wasn't very successful and it had problems flying. It was also propeller powered, so it was very slow, and it was basically just a flat thing, so the seat sat on top of it instead of inside of it like this one does. The Twin Boom 2 is superior to the Avenger in many ways. It can maneuver better, and it's more stable when it's doing those maneuvers. It has 2 missiles on the wings and 5 under the body. It also has 2 guns on the front, but it wasn't giving me the firepower that I wanted, so I increased that number to 6. It also features 2 parachutes on each boom for landing quickly. This aircraft was made soon after the Avenger 1, but it is still used to this day. The next aircraft on our list is the same aircraft but modified for bomber roles. At this time, I didn't really feel like making an entire new aircraft, so I just slapped some bombs on the bottom of this one because this jet is very multi-use. And that's really the only difference. This next vehicle has one simple use, and that use is to send my enemies to the basement. This vehicle is just an all-out ground attacker. It has the maximum amount of guns you can use in the game and the maximum amount of missiles. These turrets on top were also added later. Also, it has cutters all over the back of it. It also has these doors on the side just in case anybody wants to hop in. There's also horns because why not? I guess this vehicle could also be used as a drifter because it is very uncontrollable. The next build was deleted, but it would have been another version of this just with protection over the wheels, but I didn't keep it because it made it even less mobile and it didn't really prove to make a difference. The next build was another version of this in an attempt to make it so it could travel more places. Here you can see some parts have been removed to make way for propellers. You know, I kind of wish Plane Crazy would add some kind of sound to the wheels, but it's fine. And now, as you can see, one of the many problems with this vehicle is it isn't exactly mobile. It was only really meant for battling people on this area right here. So now here's my second unsuccessful attempt to get to the water. At this point, I'm just going to spawn in the water. But I didn't press the return button just in time to see that F-35's attempt to bomb me, but it proved unsuccessful. So anyways, here it is in the water. Its mobility is decent, but it doesn't really turn that good. I have no idea where he just went, but back to this thing. As you can see, it has decent turning, except for when it doesn't. It kind of does this thing where it won't stop turning in one direction, and I don't really know what causes it. Also in the water, those missiles tend to blow up the front part. Oh look, there he is. He survived after all. On to the next build. This next one is another simple but effective build. It is the anti-shredder bug. It's for the most part made out of TNT, and I spawned in the wrong area. Here we go, much better. Now, as I was saying, for the most part it's made out of TNT, so whenever a shredder bug comes near, I just press the boom button, and then bye-bye shredder bug. And if it doesn't destroy it, at least most of its components will be damaged. And just in case it's the kind of shredder bug where there's a seat and they're sitting on the ground, I use all 10 of the game's guns to destroy them with it, and then the shredder bug just disintegrates. This next build was one of the biggest at its time, taking up almost my entire plot. It's a warship powered by 4 large propellers and a propeller in the middle for reversing. I also added a ladder on the side because the boat is too tall to get on without it. It also has 2 propellers on each side for steering. The giant HUD right here on the right is because it has a lot of functions. And the world is gone because I forgot I had automatic graphics on. So the performance of this boat is pretty decent. It's got all 10 of the game's guns in front as well as a cannon, and it can rotate the gun left and right. The other 3 cannons are in the back along with a missile launcher, and they turn in sync because there's really no use to design 2 different sets of buttons for them. And I also put a horn on it. Why is it when everyone sees a boat in this game, they just automatically start attacking it? Well, now you get some PvP action. That F-35 just blew himself up. This next vehicle is named All-Terrain. This vehicle is simple, go over all terrain. And this specific version has 2 rotating missile turrets on top for PvP. It's not much, but it's enough to defend itself. This vehicle is also my first attempt at suspension. It also features 2 super rocket engines on top just in case it needs a slight boost. For example, if it gets stuck in a hole or something. One downside is because of its high suspension, the vehicle isn't very stable if you turn too fast, but the suspension in later builds is better. I also gave it another horn. So now let's drive over to the water here so I can show you its swimming capabilities. So here it is. It has 2 propellers on the outside for going forward and 1 just in on-off mode for going backward. I know not all of it is above the water and it's a little lopsided, but I'm not going to fix that because this is an old build, so why even bother? I wonder why this guy keeps coming over to me. What does he want? Seriously, I don't know who this is. Is he firing at me? I need to get out of here. No, why can't it swim? And now he's destroyed. This was certainly an eventful segment of video. Here's another thing I don't like about the all-terrain. It sometimes just gets stuck in this turning loop and I can't really do anything about it. Oh, and I did say all-terrain. Off of the world counts as terrain. The next build we have here is a boat. I saw from one of the Plane Crazy screenshots a motor actually connected to a propeller for the steering, as right there. So I decided to try it for myself. Those wings right there are for stability. So here it is, and with that big propeller, or at least big compared to this boat, it's very fast. And when I turn, it turns the actual propeller itself, and it's not very stable, but it's entertaining. The next build you might remember from my few minutes of Plane Crazy Warfare video. This is the Strike Jet version 1. It has all 4 firework cannons, 2 guns, and 4 missiles under the fuselage, and a camera there so it makes it easier to view what I'm striking. It also has 4 hover thrusters on it so it can have VTOL capabilities, that's vertical takeoff or landing. And it also has a parachute on the back to help with quicker landings. That's a very suspicious looking hangar. This jet is not very fast, but it doesn't really need to be because we're mainly striking ground targets. That was a direct hit. This next build is the exact same jet, except it has 6 TNT blocks strapped under the wings for bombing. Also, those TNT blocks have pretty low clearance towards the ground. Having TNT blocks strapped to the wings of your aircraft is good because you have more things to destroy people with, but on the other hand, just like you just saw, It's also very dangerous, especially when you have them on explode on contact like these ones are. So that's another reason this jet has VTOL, so it won't hit anything on takeoff like it just did. Despite having the parachute, I still managed to overshoot the runway. I also forgot to mention that this and the other version has this sight on the inside. It used to be the letter X, but Roblox decided for some reason to turn it into a tag. This next build was inspired by a V-22 Osprey. This is a VTOL aircraft, and it can either take off like a helicopter by having its propellers in the upward position, or it can rotate them to go forward and fly like a plane. This little turret on top was added later so it could defend itself. This aircraft is also able to reach an impressive 200 plus miles per hour. And that guy just decided I look better with one vertical stabilizer. Luckily, I have two, so I can fly without one. This aircraft is armed with 12 missiles on the inside that face straight down, so when I drop them I can strike ground targets. It also has these doors on the side because sometimes I just use this aircraft to travel places and I get out, explore, and then get back in. This next aircraft didn't exactly turn out how I intended it to, but because of that, it's very durable. This is the Delta Wing, or the Flying Dorito as my siblings have called it. The aircraft is mostly wing, but it's not very maneuverable despite this. So then I took it out to PvP and got shot some, but it didn't really matter because it's mostly made out of wing, so it just performed just fine. And that's where this aircraft's advantage is, durability. The aircraft has 6 guns lined up in 2 rows on the front, and it also has 4 missiles under it. So now watch me take off a piece of the wing and see, it just did absolutely nothing. It still flies just fine. This next build is the same tank that you saw in the Plane Crazy Warfare video, except sporting a new camo, this dark green that I custom made. And this segment is not going to be very long because you already really know how it works. It has a turret with a motor in it, and I sit in the turret. The disadvantage about that though is if someone shoots right here, it'll just destroy my C, and then I'll lose all control of the tank. It also has this gun on the front because tanks don't just have a cannon, they often have a gun just like this. Also, if I decide to play in night mode, there's a light on the front because why not? There's also a little door on the back so I can get in and out of the tank. This next build is a helicopter, and this took a lot of time to make, trying to figure out how to get the motors spin and not have the helicopters spin. The way it works is that the motors are not actually powered, it's the super rocket engines that are rotating the blades. And the reason the motors are not powered is because when I tried doing it, it was spinning the helicopter and not the blades. So I tried this instead. This light was also recently added so I could see in the dark. So the way it works is you power on the rear rotors first, and then once it starts to lift a little bit, then you power on the front ones. You always want to have the rear rotors spinning faster than the front rotors because the rear ones are higher, and if you do this, it'll start to go forward. If you have them at the same speed, the helicopter will go up but really won't go forward. It's armed with 4 missiles and 4 cannons. It also has 2 small propellers on the end of the vertical stabilizer to help with turning. And these doors for rescue missions. On the inside, here's another one of those sites that Roblox decided to turn into a tag. One thing I forgot to show you with the tank is it has this sight right near the barrel. Before we get to the next official aircraft, what we just looked at is the SH-1, and I tried making an SH-2 because often the rotors would lock up because they were so close together on the SH-1, but moving the back rotor higher affected its performance negatively, and then the SH-1 stopped locking up, so it really didn't need this anymore. Now the next build we have is a heavy bomber. And it has this defensive turret on top that is very good at fending off whatever aircraft try to come at it. As you can see here, it has a lot of bombs, so it's very good at destroying whatever ground target it sees. And for more accuracy, it has a camera pointing straight down to where the bombs will land. There's also a camera on the turret up top. This aircraft also features a unique bailing mechanism. There's a piece of TNT under the cockpit, so if I press it, the seat falls out and I deploy the parachute. And I didn't install ejector seats, which is the reason for this. What the heck is happening? I have just become simplest form. And now I'm being launched 1,000 miles per hour from Plane Crazy. Bye, Plane Crazy. This next vehicle is definitely in the top 3 favorites of things that I've built. In a game where you can build pretty much everything, I had to make a locomotive. This is Mohawk Valley 1635. It's a locomotive that I made up. And I know the wheels are bigger than me, even though this is a diesel. I really think Plane Crazy should change this. But other than the horrendously big wheels, I think it looks pretty nice. This locomotive is roughly based on an EMD GP40, and the passenger car is roughly based on a Pullman standard passenger car. I got a little creative, and on the front, that is a hover thruster that I painted to look like a headlight. And I also did a cool thing to where the horn on this is quillable slightly. So I think that's pretty cool. It also has smoke on the top that I can turn on and off. And there's that headlight. and the passenger car also has lights in it. And some doors for getting on and off. There are also doors on the locomotive itself. You can also get out and walk around, because there's plenty of walkway I put on this. This next build is a little bit odd, and it was built purely just for entertainment. It is a square on wheels so it can ride on the rails, and it has a lot of super rocket engines on it, and some cutters so whatever it hits it'll just destroy it. All of the super rocket engines on top are for downforce because the wheels have been set to the maximum speed, and there's 4 super rocket engines in the frame for more speed as well. It also has ejector seats because why not? This next build is an interceptor based on the F-104 Starfighter. This aircraft turned out very well in my opinion because since it's so light it has very good fuel consumption because it didn't require a lot of super rocket engines. In fact, most of this aircraft's weight comes from it being built mostly out of fuel blocks. It also has a sight inside the cockpit. Because of how light the aircraft is, it doesn't actually require full thrust to fly. It has 6 guns on the front lined up in 2 rows and 2 missiles on the wingtips. And it also has a parachute because this aircraft is so light it takes a while to stop. The next build is a boat with a giant missile on it. It's useful for when there's big builds on this blacktop right here, so I can just launch the missile from sea and they'll never know what hit them. It also has a defensive gun. This next build is an anti-aircraft vehicle. It has propellers because it can also get in the water. It has decent off-roading capabilities, decent speed, and a relatively good gun on the back of it that can rotate and go up and down. This guy was annoying during my time of recording. This next build was supposed to be a torpedo bomber, but it didn't really work out and was having problems, and the torpedoes weren't working, so I'm not really using it. Our second to last build today, I'm kind of impressed with. It is a twin boom style sweep wing aircraft. Here you can see the wing sweeping back, and it does give it a little bit more speed and takes away maneuverability, just like the real thing. This aircraft though only has 2 missiles on it, but the thing about the guns on this, they have an explosive on them. And I'm not going to tell you how I did that. The next build, yes, is a shredder bug, but hear me out. I only use this shredder bug against other annoying people, like people that have shredder bugs. So that's enough on that, on to the final build. This is the I-2, or the Interceptor 2. It's the successor to the other Interceptor I showed earlier. It also has good fuel consumption, like the other Interceptor. And the 2 things attached to the fuselage are drop tanks, so if I ever run out of the fuel in them, I can just drop them and gain maneuverability. This aircraft has 6 missiles. And it also features that same explosive ammo from before. So, that's all of my Plane Crazy builds. I hope you all enjoyed the video. See you all next time.